All right, get ready. We're taking a deep dive into Canto XI of Dante's Inferno. And, to really set the scene, I got to read these opening lines. Upon the utmost verge of a high bank, by craggy rocks environed round, we came where woes beneath more cruel yet were stowed. And here to shun the horrible excess of fetid exhalation, upward cast from the profound abyss, behind the lid of a great monument, we stood retired. Whew. Even just reading that, I could practically smell it.
Oh, absolutely. Just like Dante is really using the stench to tell us, hey, we're going even deeper into hell now. Like, remember Canto X? Dante and Virgil, they were surrounded by those fiery tombs of the heretics, right?
Right, right, right.
Now they're moving on, but the air is, well, it's just foul in a whole new way. It's like he's creating this sense of dread.
It's like that moment in a horror movie when the music changes and you know something bad's about to happen. But before we get too freaked out, let's take a step back. Where are Dante and Virgil in this canto, and how does this connect with what they just went through?
Well, they've just crossed that bridge over the sixth circle, so they're at the edge of the seventh. But before they actually go in, there's this pause, this really significant pause. They stop by a tomb, a big one, the tomb of Pope Anastasius II.
A pope.
Pope Anastasius II. Historians think Dante might have gotten his popes mixed up here, probably confusing him with Emperor Anastasius, who was actually accused of heresy. But, this little detail, it actually says a lot about Dante.
What do you mean?
It shows he wasn't afraid to challenge authority, even someone as powerful as the Pope. By putting a pope among the heretics, Dante is making a bold statement. Anyone can fall into sin, no matter who they are. But this pause by the tomb, it also serves another purpose. It gives Virgil a chance to kind of lay out the whole structure of lower hell for Dante and for us readers, too.
So it's like a map of what's to come.
Exactly. Virgil explains that the remaining circles of hell, 7, 8, and 9, they're all organized by the types of sins that are punished there. Violence, fraud, and treachery. And it's not random, this categorization. It actually reflects a whole moral philosophy, where treachery is the worst sin, followed by fraud, and then violence. And we actually see this in the physical structure of hell. The closer you get to the center, where Satan is, the worse the sins get.
Whoa, that's a pretty intense hierarchy. But why would Dante think fraud is worse than violence?
That's a really good question. It gets to the heart of what makes us human. See, Dante believed that violence, well, both humans and animals can be violent. It's a base instinct. But fraud, that takes a whole other level of cunning. It needs intellect and reason, the things that make us different from animals. So by choosing to deceive, humans are, in a way, betraying their own nature.
Like he's saying that intelligence to be our greatest strength, but also our biggest weakness. But can we break those categories down a bit more? What did Dante actually consider to be violence in this context?
Well, Virgil explains that violence can be against three things: God, your neighbor, and yourself.
Violence against yourself. What does that even mean?
That's where it gets really interesting. See, back then, suicide was considered a form of violence against yourself, like rejecting the life God gave you. But Dante takes it even further. Wasting your talents, not living up to your potential, even destroying your possessions, all of these are violence against yourself. It's like he's asking, are we using our gifts wisely? Are we really living our best lives? Makes you think, doesn't it?
For sure. I'm starting to see why so many people still think Inferno is such a masterpiece. But I have to admit, this whole categorizing sin thing, it's fascinating. Tell me more about that distinction between fraud and treachery. What made those different for Dante?
Okay, so remember how we said that fraud needs intellect and reason? Well, Dante believed that there were different degrees of fraud depending on your relationship with the person you're deceiving. And that's where it gets even more interesting. For Dante, betraying someone who really trusts you, like family or close friends, that's the worst kind of fraud. You're breaking a sacred bond, like disrupting the natural order of things. And remember how the structure of hell, it actually reflects how bad the sin is? Well, treachery, which is like the ultimate betrayal, that's down in the ninth circle, right next to Satan himself.
Wow, so the closer you are to Satan, the worse you are. That's a pretty powerful image.
Shows how important loyalty and trust were to Dante. But, with all this talk about violence and fraud and treachery, there's this little detail in Canto XI that I think people often missed.
Oh, tell me more.
Well, Dante and Virgil are having this super deep conversation about sin and punishment, and then, kind of out of nowhere, Dante brings up usury.
Usury, like money lending. That seems a little random, doesn't it? Why would that even come up here?
It might seem random at first, but it's actually really insightful. It tells us a lot about how Dante saw the world, and economics in particular. See, back then, usury was a big sin, like greed and exploitation. But Dante takes it a step further. He connects it to this idea of messing with the natural order that we were just talking about.
I think I see where you're going with this. But how does money lending fit into that?
Well, Dante believed that art, it imitates nature. And nature, it reflects the divine. So art is like the grandchild of God, a beautiful expression of creation. But usury, for Dante, it disrupts this whole flow. Instead of creating wealth through, honest work or art, the usurer tries to conjure it out of thin air by playing with money.
So instead of making the world more beautiful and abundant, the usurer is taking a shortcut, trying to cheat the system. It's like counterfeiting, but instead of fake money, they're making fake wealth.
Exactly. And for Dante, that's a huge no-no. It's like trying to play God, messing with the divine order just to get rich.
Makes me wonder what Dante would think of our economic systems today, right? Would he see them as this giant, usury machine?
That's a really interesting question. We can't know for sure, of course, but I think it's safe to say that he'd have some concerns about how much we prioritize profit over people these days. All the environmental damage, the social problems, it's all connected.
No doubt. We're seeing the consequences all around us. The rich getting richer, the poor getting poorer. It's a mess.
And it reminds us that Inferno, it's not just some old story about hell. It's like a mirror reflecting our own capacity for darkness.
One thing that's always struck me about this canto is the atmosphere. Like the stench that Dante describes. It's so oppressive, so real. It's almost like you can feel the evil in the air. What do you think Dante's trying to do with that?
It's a great observation. I think it shows how Dante saw sin, how it corrupts not just your soul, but the world around you. Like it's a tangible, physical thing. But remember, Dante and Virgil, they have to go through this stench to reach the other side. They have to face the ugliness head on before they can move towards something better.
That's a good point. It's like he's saying that to truly understand good, you have to experience the bad.
It reminds me of something else that's really interesting about this canto. Remember those fiery tombs from Canto X? Being stuck in one of those forever would be a nightmare.
Absolutely.
Well, it's interesting because Dante brings them up again in Canto XI, but this time he focuses more on the smell because he's adding another layer of torment. Makes me think about those Epicureans we met earlier.
The eat, drink, and be merry crowd.
They thought pleasure was the ultimate good, so to be trapped in those stinking tombs where every breath is a reminder of decay and death, it's like a twisted version of their philosophy.
Like their pursuit of pleasure became their punishment. That's pretty chilling.
And it highlights how Dante uses the physical world of hell to reflect the spiritual state of the damned. It's so masterful.
We've been talking about all these different sins and categories of evil, but there's one thing we haven't really talked about yet. Where does love fit into all of this?
That's a great question. It gets to the very core of what Dante is trying to say about humanity. You see, love, real love, it's like a reflection of divine love. It's selfless, it's compassionate, it gives life.
So you're saying there's no love in hell. That's kind of a bummer.
It's more that love in hell, it's distorted. Think about those souls we've encountered, consumed by rage, envy, greed.
Yeah, not exactly the lovey-dovey types.
Their actions, they come from a place of need, but it's a selfish need. They're so focused on their own suffering or their own desires, there's no room for empathy, for real compassion.
So their capacity for love, it's like it's been twisted, corrupted by all the sin.
Exactly. Like those souls in the fiery tombs, they're so fixated on their own pain, they can't even see the suffering of others around them. And that's one of the most tragic things about Dante's vision of hell. It's not just physical torment. It's a place where love, the very essence of it, has been snuffed out.
Wow. That's pretty heavy. But it also makes you realize how powerful love really is, it's this beacon of hope in the darkness.
And I think that's a message that Dante wants us to take away from Inferno. Sin is real, evil exists, but so does love. And in the end, it's love that can save us.
Love is redemption. I like that.
It's a beautiful idea, and it makes you think about the choices we make in our own lives, right? Are we choosing love, or are we letting those darker impulses take over?
When you think about those souls trapped in those tombs, it really makes you appreciate freedom. We have the choice to turn towards the light, to choose love and compassion.
And that's what makes Inferno so relevant, even today. It's not just a story about hell, it's a story about being human, the struggle between good and evil, the search for meaning and redemption.
It's a journey we all take in some way.
And while Dante's journey is definitely more dramatic than most, it reminds us that we all have a path to choose.
Well, we've certainly covered a lot of ground today. Violence, fraud, treachery, even a little bit of love.
Yeah, it's been a deep dive for sure.
To our listeners, we leave you with this. If love is absent in hell, what does that say about the choices we make here and now? How can we bring more love, more compassion, more empathy into our lives and into the world?
Because ultimately, those are the choices that will shape our journey, both in this life and the next.
Until next time, keep diving deep. And remember, even in the darkest depths, there's always a glimmer of hope.